What's your favorite scary movie?
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today I'm giving you my thoughts on The Exorcist Believer. I'm sure this is going to get interesting, so let's go ahead and dive into this thing. When his daughter Angela and her friend Catherine show signs of demonic possession, it unleashes a chain of events that forces single father Victor Fielding to confront the nadir of evil. Terrified and desperate, he seeks out Chris MacNeil, the only person alive who's witnessed anything like it before. So The Exorcist Believer is directed by David Gordon Green, the same guy that brought us the Halloween trilogy, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. So one thing I want to say to you guys before we dive into my thoughts about this specific film is that I only saw the original Exorcist film just a couple years ago, and while I liked it and respect it and obviously think it's probably one of the greatest horror movies of all time, it wasn't necessarily scary to me. I don't think it's one of the scariest films of all time in my opinion, but I know like if I was to have seen this film when it came back out originally in the 70s, I can understand why it would have scared the shit out of people at that time. And I can certainly understand why a lot of people still feel that same way and why it's been talked about for 50 years now since its release. Now, the reason that I'm saying this to you guys is that I want to let you know that I don't have a specific personal connection to this film. It's not necessarily one of my favorite films of all time compared to a movie like Scream, which I'm sure will be controversial for some of you guys, but I don't have that personal connection. So I tried to go into this movie not really having any expectations because I knew if I had tried to stack this up or had the expectations that it was going to be on the same level of the original Exorcist, that it was going to fail no matter what it did. I wanted to let this film do its own thing despite the fact that it is a legacy sequel, and I know a lot of people are going into this movie kind of expecting that, which is totally fair. But if people went into this movie with those expectations because it is a legacy sequel and you have Ellen Burstyn in it as well, then I can totally understand that some people being disappointed with the film. So you have Victor, who's a single dad. He's trying to raise his daughter Angela by himself, where he lost his wife 13 years ago. You can tell the two of them are extremely close, and I really like the relationship between these two. So when Angela goes missing with her friend Catherine and Victor is looking for her, you really feel for him. So for me, Leslie Odom Jr., he was one of the best things in the movie because of his performance and what he was able to bring to this character, as well as the level of emotion when this dad, he's trying to find his daughter. You know, you really feel for this character, at least I did myself. So in the first act of the film, you have these two friends. They end up going missing in the woods. They think they're only gone for a couple hours, when in reality we find out that it's been 3 days and everybody has been looking for them. And when they show back up in the second act, then you quickly start to realize that there's something wrong with them, just the way that they're acting a little weird. And eventually Victor seeks out help to figure out what's going on with his daughter, and that's when Chris MacNeil is brought into the film. So now, did she need to be in the film? No, probably not. And that's why I think the character of Chris does feel a little forced here. And even Ellen Burstyn herself, she came out before the film was even released, and she had said how a number of times she was saying no to this film in particular. And it wasn't until at one point they just offered her a ridiculous amount of money, and I believe we're going to give some of that, if not all of it, to one of her charities. And so finally she was like, okay, I will do the movie. And so she was kind of doing it for the money, I mean, for charity, which, you know, I totally understand. But it just doesn't come off too great for the script when one of the characters that you're trying to get to join the movie said no multiple times and didn't say yes until you offered them like an insane amount of money. I think the studio thought, hey, we were able to do this with the recent Halloween trilogy that we did. Why don't we go ahead and take that and try and do the same thing with the Exorcist trilogy? And that doesn't necessarily always work. So I think this was probably one of my least favorite aspects of the film, and I could totally understand for major fans of the original film being a little pissed off how they use that character in this film here. And so after this, the third act of the film, without going into too many details, we'll just say that this is where you get the exorcism part of the movie, and you have two girls this time versus just one. Otherwise, it's kind of pretty standard exorcism stuff. However, I have to talk about Lydia Jewett and Olivia Markham, who play Angela and Catherine in the movie. I thought both of these girls were amazing here, especially when they were full-blown possessed and all cut up. They were actually pretty creepy at times. But even when they first got found and were acting strange and disoriented, I think they played that up really well. So for me, these two girls here, they were certainly one of the higher points of the film for me personally. I also have to give a shout out to the special effects and makeup team here, led by Christopher Nelson. I thought the designs specifically of Angela and Catherine here were amazing. There's nothing better when you get some really great special effects and makeup, practical effects specifically, when it comes to a horror film. So I thought that was, again, another one of the high points of the movie for me. Now, is the film scary? No. There weren't any particular scenes that I was actually afraid of or scared. That is kind of hard to do for me. There's not a whole lot of films that legit actually scare me, so in a way I can't really blame the film for that, but I was hoping for a little more in that department. There were some moments that I think were creepy, but yeah, nothing that was gonna keep me up at night or give me nightmares or anything like that. So I think some people are gonna be a little disappointed in that aspect. And also from Acts 2 and 3, other than having two girls possessed instead of just one, this film doesn't really do anything unique to separate itself from the number of different possession movies that we've gotten over the years. And so if you ended up taking the Chris character out of it, you really could have called this almost anything else besides having the Exorcist in the front of the title. Despite that, I still don't think The Exorcist Believer is as bad as some people are saying it is. I think it's a solid enough film, but if compared to the original, then I can see why it would be considered a disappointment for some people. So overall, as far as the score goes, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10, which I know some of you guys are probably going to say, that's way too high of a score. Were you paid to give this high of a score to this movie? And no, trust me, I am not getting paid for this review at all. I don't know, to me, like I said, I just don't have a personal connection to that original film that I know a lot of people do. So I can totally understand the people that are disappointed with this movie, thinks it sucks, whatever. But I went into it and I had fun, went to watch the movie with my buddy. We both kind of felt the same way, that it was solid enough. It's not going to be a movie that's going to make my top 10 at the end of the year for sure, but it's certainly not going to be at the bottom, the worst movies that I've seen at the end of the year as well. So that's kind of where I stand as far as this film goes. I'm certainly curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are, specifically my viewers, my subscribers on the channel, if you've had a chance to check it out. But if you're not, at this first time watching this video, I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are, because yeah, I know the audiences, the critics have not been too kind to this film. So I want to know where you guys kind of land on things, because I feel like I'm probably in the minority giving this thing a little bit of a higher score than some other people. But as always, guys, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. If you can give the video a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it, because I can almost guarantee definitely gonna get some thumbs down here, my thoughts on the film. Even though, like I said, I can totally understand if you don't like it, and I would much prefer, instead of you giving the video a thumbs down if you disagree, just go ahead and tell me why you didn't like the film in the comments below. I would really appreciate that, because I wanna, hear your thoughts as well. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll be back with some new reviews soon.